Hi everybody, we're going to take notes from the 7th grade Common Core ratios and rates, and this is notes from lesson 5.1. The sheet has been provided for you, so please copy down what I write down. You won't need to copy the rest of it down because it should already be on your sheet. I also want to remind you that when taking notes, it's not simply just writing down everything that I've written down. You should have a good understanding of what the heck I'm talking about. This is a preview, and we are going to recap it. But it's important that if you don't understand things, you're starting and stopping, watching the video again, and you're writing notes down so you are prepared to ask questions. The first thing we're going to talk about is writing ratios two ways. So ratios typically are in simplest form, and they do not have units. So they are listed in the order in which they are given. So we're going to simply write it as 33 to 18. Now, you say it, the word two, there could be a two, the word, a colon, or a fraction. Those are already simplified for you, so you don't have to simplify. It's also important to remember with ratios that they are never written as mixed numbers. They are written as improper fractions. If I have 56 boys to 64 girls, I can't simply just write 56 over 64. I have to simplify that. Both 56 and 64 divide by 8. So it is 7 to 8, 7 to 8, 7 to 8, written in the same order that's been given. Now, these are also simplifying ratios, but as you notice, the units are different. So you have to make the units the same because when writing ratios, you write it simplified without the units. So I need to go ahead and change 6 yards to feet. I know that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So I have 6 yards. That's 18 feet. So 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. I think I said it 6 times. So 6 times 3 is 18. So I'm going to write it. It would be 6 feet to 18 feet. Now, as a ratio, because they're both the same unit, I don't write the units, and then I simplify it. So they give it to me as a colon, I give it to them as a colon. 1 to 3 would be my ratio. Because the units were different, I had to convert them. I had to make sure I understood that 1 yard was the same thing as 3 feet, so I made 6 yards into 18 feet. This is 120 minutes to 3 hours. I need to make them all into the same units, so I'm going to change 3 hours into minutes. I can go ahead and take 160 minutes and make it into 2 hours if I want, or I can make 3 hours into minutes. In this case, it doesn't matter. I am literally going to go ahead and write that 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So 1 hour is 60, 2 hours is 120, 3 hours is 180. So I now have 120 minutes, the word to 180 minutes. I simplify that, I eliminate the units, and I write them with the word to. So I'm going to divide both by 100. I'm going to divide both by 60. That gets me 2 to 3. Okay. Moving along, simplify complex fractions. Sometimes you'll have a fraction in your numerator and denominator, and you can't have that. So in order to eliminate the denominator fraction or the denominator in the fraction, the whole number in the fraction, you need to go ahead and figure out what am I going to do to 4 to get it to be 1. Well, if I were to go ahead and have 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1. Also, 4 times 1/4 is 1. Either one's going to work. I'm going to go with the 1/4 because I need to simplify both. So 1/2 times 1/4 is 1/8. 1/8 over 1 is 1/8. So this part we're simplifying complex fractions. I have a fraction and a whole number or 2 fractions. I need to eliminate the denominator. So I need to ask myself, what do I need to do to the 4 to eliminate it? So 4 divided by 4 is 1, as well as 4 times 1/4 is 1. And what I do to the bottom, I do to the top, just like in equations. And 1/8 over 1 is the same as an eighth. In this case, I'm going to multiply by 5/3 to eliminate the bottom. Denominator is now 1. I'm going to simplify. 5/8 over 1 is 5/8. So I've multiplied by the reciprocal, because a fraction times the reciprocal is 1. And then I do the same to the top, and I've just simplified those complex fractions to be 5/8. These are ratios, okay? Complex fractions being simplified, no units in my final. Now that we've moved into rates, rates compare two different quantities, and so rates have labels, so I know what the heck I'm comparing. So I have 22 over 5 dozens, okay? 22 bucks and 5 dozen. Well, with a unit rate, I need to make sure my denominator is 1, similar to complex fractions. So what am I going to do to 5 to make it be 1? I'm going to divide by 5. I'm going to divide by 5. This is a calculator unit, all right? I don't have my calculator, so I'm going to do the division. I'm going to do 22 divided by 5. That's 4, 20, 2, 0. Now, 4.4 is my answer, but because I'm dealing with money, my answer is going to be $4.40, and I write it per dozen. All right, I write it as a word per dozen. If I don't want to write it as a word, which is fine, I can write $4.40 over a dozen. So I'm going to divide by my denominator in the numerator and the denominator to make sure my denominator is 1, and I have to include units. Number 8, 5 miles, 42 minutes. And I'm going to divide both by 42. This is going to be ugly. I'm going to have to go ahead and do the long division. I have 5 divided by 42. That's 1. 42 is 8. I have 1 again. Ugh. Should have grabbed my calculator. 38. All right, so I'm going to say that this is about 0.1 miles in 1 minute. So in this case, miles per minute, time usually goes on the bottom. It depends on how they're giving it to you. So I've had to divide 5 and 42 both by 42 to eliminate the denominator. So far, simplifying ratios, kept it in the order that they gave it to me, no units. In simplifying with different units, in order to eliminate the units, I need to make sure the units are the same, keeping the order the same way they've given it to me. Complex fractions and unit rates, I needed to eliminate the denominator by dividing the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. The important thing to remember about unit rates is that it is, you have to have the actual units. All right, now let's use some of these unit tables to go ahead and solve some problems. So these are ratio tables. It's talking about the amount in square feet and the cost per dollars. So I'm asking for the cost per square foot. So I can go ahead and literally take the cost, which is 100, and that's 25 square feet. I divide, just like I did for unit rates, by the denominator. Oh, it's 4 over 1. So I have $4 per square feet. And if you look, because the ratio table is linear, every one, 400 divided by 100 is 4. 1600 divided by 400 is 4. 6400 divided by 1600 is 4. Right? So that ratio in between is divide by 25, and so it's 100. Okay? Now for this one, it's telling me 18 miles every 4 seconds. So this is 18, this is 36, this is times 3, so 18 times 3, make sure you have your calculator, that's 54, and now I have 18 times 4, 272. And then I have 18 times 5. Sorry, I forgot my calculator. And 90. Okay. So let's talk about where I got these numbers from. If every 4 seconds I'm going 18 miles. Do you see that I'm multiplying these both by 2? Okay. These I'm multiplying both by 3. For these, I'm multiplying both by 4. And for this one, I'm multiplying it by 5, and I'm multiplying it by 5. So as you can see over here, I did the doodling, I did the multiplications this way. So when I'm filling out a table, I need to make sure that it's linear, that all the ratios are equivalent. If I were to simplify all of them, that's what the unit rate is asking for, and it can be asked in 2 different ways. The first time I'm asking for how many miles per 1 second, and then the second way is how many seconds per every 1 mile. So I need to do it both ways. So this is miles per second. So this would originally be 18 miles for 4 seconds. And I would go ahead and I would divide both by 4. Okay. It's going to get me 1. And then I'm going to do 18 divided by 4. That's 4, 16, 20, 0, 4.5. So I took 18 divided by 4, and I got 4.5. Now remember, you can use your calculator. It's a calculator unit. Now if I do it the other way, it's not going to be 18 over 4. It's going to be 4 over 18. You got to pay attention to the units. This one is asking for miles per second. This one's asking seconds per mile. This one's going to, I'm going to simplify it first to make my life a little easier. So that's 2 ninths. So I'm going to divide 2 divided by 9. And that's going to get me 0.2 repeating. So 2 ninths second per mile, or I can say it's about 0.2 seconds per mile, again, using the calculator. So we're going to use what we know in the ratio relationships to complete a table and use a table in order to find the unit rate. And the unit rate represents per 1. That's what unit rate represents. So that's how we're going to use these tables. And units are important and labels are important, so I know what am I finding the rate of. We can also use graphs to go ahead and find rates. If I were to look at this graph, it's asking me what does the ordered pair 428 means. So I have to use the units on the graph to help me. Well, this is tickets, and this is 4. This is cost per dollar, and this is 28. So what this means is that this is 4 tickets cost 28 bucks. If I were to ask for this one, it would say that 2 tickets cost 14. And this one, 6 tickets cost 42. You have to use the labels on the graph to go ahead and figure out. So if 4 tickets cost 28, I want to know how much it's going to cost per 1 ticket. Now, I can go ahead and take my 4 and 28, or I can take my 2 and 14. So if 2 is for 14, 4 is for 28, I can go ahead and I want to know what 1 ticket costs. So I can write it as a fraction if I want. So $14 per 1 or per 2 tickets. Now, remember, I got to get that 2 to be 1 for a unit rate. So that's divide by 2, divide by 2, 7. $7 per ticket. Some of you are able to go ahead and look and say, oh, look, it's going to be 1, 7. All right, that's perfect. You're fine doing that. Now, what is the amount for 9 tickets? Well, it's $7 per 1 ticket. So how many for 9 tickets? That's 7 times 9, $63. This is a lot of information. I'm going to need you to watch the video at least 2 times and make sure you've written down everything that I've written down on the sheets provided. Make sure you're comfortable with writing ratios both ways, simplifying using different units, complex fractions, unit rates for 1 and has labels, ratio tables using what we know for equivalent ratios, completing ratio, this is actually a rate table. Number 10 is because it has the units and it's combined different than the others. So you're going to use what you already know to complete it. And then graphs, you're going to use what you know for the graph in order to go ahead and answer questions. Please remember, if there's things you don't understand, you're writing, okay? You're starting and stopping the video, all right? Please make sure you come in knowing what this is talking about and being able to answer some questions and give some feedback. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.